Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about relationships.
Ooh.
Yeah. And, sometimes things in a relationship just aren't working out. And it can be hard to see the signs when you're in the thick of it.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be talking about 6 signs that a relationship might be over. And these are signs that we've gotten from relationship experts.
Okay.
So these are the things that you should be looking out for.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm excited to hear these.
Okay, so the first sign that we're going to talk about is uncertainty about where the relationship stands.
Ooh, interesting.
I think we've all been there at some point or another, right? Like you're with someone, but you're not really sure if you're official or just casually dating.
Right. Yeah, it's that gray area
Yeah.
that can really cause a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, and it's not just about, putting a label on it.
Right.
It's about, feeling comfortable bringing your partner to events with you, or even just introducing them to people. Like, how do you introduce this person?
Yeah, exactly. Or like, what do you say on social media?
Yeah.
It's just this like weird in-between space that can be really uncomfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think when you're in that space, it can be really hard to have those important conversations about, where the relationship is going.
Yeah, you don't want to rock the boat, right?
Exactly. You're afraid to ask for clarity because you don't want to mess things up.
Right.
But that lack of communication can actually be really damaging to a relationship.
Exactly.
Like if you're not comfortable enough to even talk about those things, it might be a sign that something's not right.
Yeah, and I think it's like avoiding those conversations sends a message in itself, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like you're not comfortable enough to be vulnerable and have those tough conversations.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into that second sign, which is suppressing your true self.
Ooh, interesting.
This can be a subtle but really damaging pattern in a relationship.
Yeah, I can see that.
It might start with small things like holding back your opinions, or maybe you don't tell that joke because you're afraid they won't think it's funny.
Right, right.
But over time, it can really wear you down and you start to lose your sense of self.
So how can you tell if you're doing this? Like, are there any signs to look out for?
Well, one thing you might notice is that feeling of relief when you're away from your partner.
Oh?
It's like you can finally breathe and be yourself without worrying about being judged.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. You might find that you're more outspoken with your friends, or you might start doing those hobbies that your partner doesn't really get.
Right.
And it's not that those things are bad, it's just that you feel more comfortable expressing those parts of yourself when your partner's not around.
Like it's almost a test, right?
Yeah, in a way.
Do you feel more like yourself when you're not with them?
Exactly.
And if the answer is yes, then maybe that's a sign that something's off.
It's something to think about for sure.
It's important to remember that, in a healthy relationship, you should be able to be yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Like both people should be able to grow and evolve as individuals without feeling like they have to change who they are to please the other person.
That's such a good point, and that actually leads us perfectly into our next sign, which is clashing values and principles.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yeah. You might have incredible chemistry with someone, but if your core values are totally different, that can lead to some serious problems down the line.
Absolutely. Like you might have a lot of fun in the beginning, but eventually those differences are going to start to create friction.
So how can you tell the difference between chemistry and actual long-term compatibility?
That's a good question. And it can be really tough to figure out, especially when you're first starting to date someone.
Right.
But I think it's important to pay attention to those red flags.
Okay.
Like, are you finding yourself compromising your values to make your partner happy?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, like maybe you start drinking more than you normally would. Or you stop hanging out with your friends as much.
Okay.
Or you start doing things that you're not really interested in.
Because they like it.
Exactly. And it's not about becoming exactly like your partner.
Right.
It's about finding someone who appreciates you for who you are.
Yes.
And who encourages you to be your best self.
Right.
If you feel like you're constantly having to choose between your partner and your values, that's a sign that something might not be right.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, this next sign is something that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Okay.
Communication anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not just talking about being nervous to talk to someone. It's more about that deep-seated fear of how your partner is going to react to what you say.
Right.
So you're constantly overthinking everything.
It's second-guessing yourself.
Yeah, you're always analyzing every text message, waiting for their reply.
Worrying that you said the wrong thing.
It's exhausting.
It is. It's so draining.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that this is just about being a bad texter or being shy, But it's really not.
Right.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah, it's about feeling safe and secure in the relationship.
Right.
If you don't feel like you can openly and honestly express your feelings without fear of judgment or backlash, it creates this barrier to real connection.
Yeah, and you're always trying to decode their messages.
Right. It's like you're trying to solve a puzzle instead of just communicating from the heart.
Yeah, it's like you're always on guard.
Exactly.
Anticipating their reaction instead of just being present in the moment.
It can really prevent the relationship from growing and deepening.
Yeah, because communication is so important.
It really is the foundation of any healthy relationship.
Right.
So if you feel like you can't be yourself in your communication with your partner, that might be a sign that something needs to change.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Like when you feel safe and secure, you can just be yourself.
Exactly. You don't have to overthink every word or worry about walking on eggshells.
All right, let's move on to our fifth sign. And I think this one might resonate with a lot of people.
Okay.
Growing annoyance.
Ooh.
And this isn't just about like the normal ups and downs of a relationship. You know, everyone gets annoyed with their partner sometimes.
Right.
But this is more about those little quirks that you used to find cute. But now they're starting to drive you crazy.
Yeah, it's like those rose-colored glasses have come off.
Yeah.
And you're seeing your partner in a more realistic light.
Right. And the things that you used to just brush off are suddenly like nails on a chalkboard.
Exactly.
So how can you tell if this is just a phase or like a sign of a bigger problem?
Well, I think it's important to pay attention to how often you're feeling annoyed.
Okay.
And how intense that annoyance is. Like, are you snapping at your partner all the time
Yeah.
or avoiding them altogether? Do you find yourself dwelling on their flaws and having trouble appreciating their good qualities?
Yeah, because I feel like that's when resentment starts to build up.
Exactly. And resentment is a very dangerous emotion in a relationship.
Yeah, it can really eat away at the foundation of love and trust.
Absolutely. It makes it hard to see your partner with compassion and understanding.
So what can you do if you notice that resentment is starting to creep in? Like, is it possible to turn things around?
It depends on the situation, really.
Okay.
Sometimes resentment comes from a lack of communication. Maybe you're not expressing your needs or expectations clearly.
Okay.
And in those cases, having an open and honest conversation can make a big difference.
Right. It's important to address those issues as they come up.
Yes. Definitely don't bottle things up.
Yeah, that never ends well.
No, it doesn't. But sometimes the resentment runs deeper, and you might need professional help to work through it.
Okay.
Couples therapy can be a really valuable resource in those situations.
Right. It can provide that safe and structured environment to talk about those tough emotions.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's move on to our sixth and final sign.
Okay.
And this one can be a bit of a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
In increasingly separate lives.
Ooh, yeah.
And again, this isn't about needing space in a relationship.
Yeah.
Everyone needs their own time.
Exactly.
But this is more about that gradual drift where you start living parallel lives
Yes.
instead of sharing a life together.
It can be really subtle at first.
Okay.
Maybe you start taking separate vacations, or you have different hobbies, or you just spend more time with other people than you do with each other.
I can see how that happens, though, especially as people grow and change over time.
Yeah, for sure.
So how can you tell if this is just a healthy expression of individuality or if it's a sign that you're growing apart?
I think it comes down to the quality of the time that you do spend together.
Okay.
Not just the quantity. Are you still making an effort to create shared experiences?
Okay.
Even if those experiences look different than they used to.
Right.
Are you still each other's biggest cheerleaders?
Okay.
Are you supporting each other's dreams?
That's a good point. It's not about doing everything together.
Right.
It's about feeling like you're still a team.
Exactly.
Even if you have different individual interests.
It's about that sense of we, even when you're doing your own thing.
Right.
And when that starts to fade,
Yeah.
it can be a sign that the relationship is losing its foundation.
So we've talked about 6 signs that a relationship might be ending. Uncertainty about where things stand, suppressing your true self, clashing values, communication, anxiety, growing annoyance, and increasingly separate lives.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. It's a lot to think about, and it's important to remember that these aren't like a checklist.
Right.
These are just things to consider within your own relationship.
Every relationship is different.
Exactly.
And what might be a red flag for one couple might be totally normal for another.
Right. But recognizing these patterns is the first step.
Yes.
And then you have to decide how to move forward. Whether that's addressing the issues, seeking professional help, or ultimately, having the courage to walk away.
Absolutely. It's about taking control of your relationship journey.
And I think that can be really overwhelming for people.
Yeah, it can be scary.
So what advice would you give to someone who's listening to this and realizing that some of these signs are present in their own relationship?
Well, first of all, I would say be kind to yourself. There's no shame in admitting that a relationship isn't working. It doesn't mean that you failed or that you're not worthy of love.
It's about being honest with yourself.
Exactly.
Even if it's hard.
And remember, you're not alone.
Right.
Reach out to your support system, your friends, your family, a therapist, anyone you trust to listen and offer support.
Yeah, sometimes just talking about it can make a world of difference.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to seek professional guidance. The therapist can help you to understand your feelings. Figure out what you need.
Okay.
And develop a plan for moving forward.
Yeah, whether that's within the relationship or on your own.
Exactly.
That's such a good reminder. Sometimes we just need a little extra help.
We all do.
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about those who are still in the relationship and they want to try to work things out.
Okay.
What advice would you give to couples who are committed to giving it another shot?
Well, the most important thing is that both partners have to be on the same page.
Okay.
It can't just be one person who's willing to put in the effort.
Right. It has to be a team effort.
Exactly. You both have to be committed to working on the relationship.
So have that conversation.
Yes. Talk about it openly and honestly. Make sure you're both on board.
Okay, and then what? Like, where do you even begin?
Well, communication is key, of course.
Okay.
But it's not just about talking about the problems. It's about creating opportunities for positive interactions.
Okay.
For shared experiences. For rekindling that spark that you might have lost.
So like making time for each other.
Exactly. Even if it's just for a few minutes every day.
Okay.
Put down your phones, turn off the TV, and just connect with each other.
Like a date night.
Date nights are great. But it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be as simple as cooking dinner together or going for a walk.
Okay.
The important thing is that you're spending quality time together.
Right, and remembering why you fell in love in the first place.
Exactly. What did you used to do together that you enjoyed? What made you laugh?
Okay.
What made you feel connected?
I love that it's about getting back to basics.
Yeah, in a way.
But it's also about trying new things together.
Yes. Keep things fresh and exciting. Don't be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone.
It's about creating a new future together.
Absolutely, one that honors both your individual growth and your shared journey.
And sometimes that growth requires a little extra support, like couples therapy. Yeah, couples therapy can be a really valuable tool for navigating those challenging conversations.
Absolutely. It can help you to develop healthier communication patterns.
Right.
And break those negative cycles that you might be stuck in.
And it's important to remember that it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help.
No, not at all.
It's a sign of strength.
Exactly.
It means that you're committed to the relationship.
Yes. And that you're willing to do what it takes to make it work.
I love that.
Me too.
You know, this whole conversation has really got me thinking about societal expectations.
No, yeah.
Like we're constantly bombarded with these images of what a perfect relationship should look like. And it's easy to get caught up in those comparisons.
Absolutely.
And start feeling like we're not measuring up.
Especially on social media.
Oh my gosh, yes. Everyone's always posting these picture-perfect moments.
Right, like vacations, fancy dinners, romantic gestures.
And it's easy to forget that those are just snippets of reality.
Exactly. Every relationship has its ups and downs. Nobody's life is perfect.
It's like we're comparing our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
And that can create so much pressure.
Yeah, it can make you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Especially if you're already feeling insecure in your relationship.
Exactly.
So it's important to remember that every relationship is unique.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all formula for happiness.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. Not what society tells you should work.
And that brings us to another important point.
Okay.
Self-love.
Oh, yes. That's so crucial.
You can't truly love someone else until you love yourself.
It's like you can't pour from an empty cup. If you're not taking care of your own emotional well-being, if you don't have a strong sense of self-worth, it's going to be really hard to show up fully in a relationship.
And it's not about being selfish.
No, not at all.
It's about recognizing your own value.
Exactly.
Setting boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries are so important.
And making choices that honor your needs and values.
When you love and respect yourself, you're more likely to attract partners who do the same.
That's so true. And it's about having the courage to walk away from any situation that compromises your well-being.
Absolutely. You deserve to be in a relationship where you feel loved and respected.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
I know, right? It's making me think about all sorts of things.
Me too. Like, for example, what about soulmates? Do you believe in soulmates?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I know. It's such a loaded question.
It is. I think the idea of soulmates can be both romantic and limiting.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Like, on the one hand, it's this beautiful concept of finding someone who truly gets you.
Right, like you're two halves of a whole.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it can create this pressure.
Yeah, like you have to find that one perfect person.
Right, and if you haven't found them yet, then you're somehow incomplete.
Which just isn't true.
No, not at all. I think it's more helpful to think of soulmates as those people who come into our lives at the right time, who teach us valuable lessons, who help us to grow and evolve.
So it's not about finding the one.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey.
Exactly, and being open to the possibility of love and connection with different people throughout our lives.
And those connections can take many forms.
Yes, romantic partners, friends, family members, mentors.
It's about recognizing that love is abundant.
Absolutely.
And that we're all capable of experiencing deep and meaningful connections. This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the complexities of relationships. Remember, you are worthy of love, respect, and happiness. And sometimes the most loving act is to choose yourself, to create a life that truly aligns with your desires. Until next time, take care